Okay, there are a couple things you need to write down for today's lesson. Today we are going to use Pythagorean Trigonometric Identities, which is something we've already talked about in order to find exact values of sine, cosine, and tangent. Part of the reason I do this is the success rate on this on tests is generally about 50% the first time you see it, and this is an important skill. Now, note we did not have this on the final exam, but we did see it a little bit first quarter, and you're going to see it again here, okay? And it does come up in Chapter 2. It's worthwhile for us to take time to do this. And so we're going to write down these three identities. Sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta is? Good guess. Not quite. Not quite. Starts with a w, rhymes with un. 1. Oh, say it louder and own it. Okay. Now, we have a second one. We have 1 plus tangent squared of theta is equal to? I'm all ears. Secant squared. Very good. Oh, the worksheet. Forgot you two as well. And we have 1 plus cotangent squared of theta is equal to cosecant squared of theta. I'm going to write down one more that's often used. Sine of theta over cosine of theta is equal to tangent of theta. And those are all just pulled straight from your sheet that you get for notes. So, Tito, can I see your notes that you have right there? So this is the sheet that you get on test. You can see all these formulas listed for you right there, right? So I'm just pulling right from that sheet. We're going to use those in order to identify exact values of 6 trigonometric functions. What is the easy one I should write down right away? Yep, sine of theta is 3 over 5. Sweet. The reciprocal is 5 over 3. So out of 6 points, we got 2 points so far. We are super smart. I don't know another one, but I know it's in quadrant 1. What does it mean for the angle to be in quadrant 1? They're all positive. So Jesse was reciting this all-important acronym, which was all students take calculus. It doesn't mean they take calculus as juniors or seniors or freshmen in college or sophomores in college. At some time, you are all going to go on and take calculus, right? Yes. Okay, great. Good for you. So they're all positive in the first quadrant. That means that I can list all of these as positive all the way down. But that still doesn't tell me what cosine is equal to. I know it's positive, but can I figure out what cosine is? Which one of these, 1, 2, 3, or 4, will I use to find cosine? Will I use the first formula, the second formula, the third formula, or the fourth one? I'll use the first one. I'll take sine and I will square it. What do you get if you square 3 over 5? 9 over 25. So I have sine squared becomes 9 over 25 plus cosine squared is equal to 1. Now I'm going to rewrite 1 to be 25 over 25. That way it has a common denominator with my other fraction. I want to solve for cosine. What should I do to both sides? Subtract the 9 over 25. I get cosine squared of theta is equal to, what is 25 over 25 minus 9 over 25? 16 over 25. Well, I'm getting closer. I have cosine squared. I don't want cosine squared. I want just cosine. So what should I do? Square root both sides to get rid of the squared. And I have a cosine of theta is equal to because I square rooted, I'm going to list the positive and the negative. Square root of 16 is 4, and square root of 25 is 5. Now, we already determined whether cosine should be positive or negative. Which one was it? Positive, because it's in the first quadrant. So I have 4 over 5. What other value do I know now? Secant is 5 over 4. Being I have sine and cosine now, do you know what value I'm going to figure out? Tangent. I'm going to use sine divided by cosine as tangent. Sine is 3/5 divided by cosine, 4/5. How do I divide two fractions? Multiply by the reciprocal. So cotangent would be 4/3. No big deal, huh? Remember this a little bit? Is it easier the second time than it was the first time? First time we saw it, you guys were like, what? And now it's like, hey, I think I'm there. Now you're right. What makes the second one more difficult, Miss Haley? There's no quadrant, okay? And also we have sine, we don't have a sine or cosine value. So sometimes when people say tangent, they're like, I don't know what to do there. But we can first sure get started by saying 15 over 8 and 8 over 15, right? That's no big deal. So let's figure out the quadrant, okay? Tangent is positive. Which are the quadrants in which tangent is positive? First and third. So I'm either in the first quadrant or the third quadrant. Cosecant is less than 0. What does it mean to be less than 0? It means you're negative. Okay? Well, cosecant is a reciprocal sign. Where's sine positive? 1 and 2. All students take calculus. So sine is positive in the first and the second. So it's negative in the third and fourth. So which quadrant do both of them occur in? The third quadrant. So is cosine positive or negative in the third quadrant? It's negative. Is sine positive or negative in the third quadrant? It's negative. So I know that those other values are negative. I have to use a little bit of deduction in order to find that out, but that's the scenario I have. Okay. So I have tangent. Which formula should I be using now? Sine squared plus cosine squared, 1 plus tangent squared, 1 plus cotangent squared, or sine over cosine? Which one? What do you think? I am going to use the second one here, okay? And that's because I have a 1, I have the tangent, and that will allow me to solve for secant squared. The other ones are going to be a little bit more challenging for me because I'm missing 2 pieces of information. So I'll go 1 plus tangent squared. What do I get if I square tangent? 225 over 64 is equal to secant squared of theta. I should rewrite the 1 as 64 over 64 plus 225 over 64 equals secant squared. Good luck, guys. Dunk a lot. Dunk a lot. Or score 60 in 29 minutes like Clay did. Okay. Add those together. 289 over 64 is equal to secant squared. Now I will square root both sides. What's the square root of 289? 17. Square root of 64? 8. and I have to list positive and negative. Do we know if secant is going to be positive or negative? It's negative. It tells us right here. We already decided it's negative. So I have negative 17 over 8. And so therefore cosine is 8 over 17. Well, now that I have cosine, I can figure out sine, right? So let's do that one. Sine squared plus cosine squared. What do I get if I square cosine? Square negative 8, you get or 289 is equal to 1 or 289 over 289. What do I now do to both sides? I subtract the 64. I get sine squared is equal to 289 minus 64. 225. Finally, I will square root. What's the square root of 225? 15. What's the square root of 289? And it's plus or minus. Do we decide if sine was going to be positive or negative? Negative, and so I choose the 15 over 17. So cosecant will be 17 over 15. Not easy, but still not horrible, right? Let's try one more. And on your worksheet, you can see I'm doing 3 problems on the front. You just have the 4 on the back. You should get about 20 minutes to work on them. Okay, cosecant is -4, and tangent is less than 0. So what should I list first? -4, and sine is -1/4. Let's figure out which quadrant we're working in. Sine is negative. Well, where's sine positive? 1 and 2. Remember, all students take calculus. So all of them are positive in the first. Sine is positive in the second. Tangent is positive in the third. Cosine is positive in the fourth. So it says sine is negative, so I know I'm working in the third quadrant or the fourth quadrant. I'm working one of those two. Then it also says that tangent is negative. Where is tangent negative? Second and fourth. So which one did both of them occur in? The fourth quadrant. So I'm working in the fourth quadrant. So what's positive in the fourth quadrant? Cosine's positive, and tangent will be negative. Hey, the whole like positive negative thing, that's a question a lot of people have that they need to work through. And, I could show example after example. There comes a point where you kind of got to work through it on your own or stay after school and work with me and figure it out. So if that's something that's not working for you, you're normal. But, we should work on it together then. So I'm going to use my first rule, which is sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. If I square -1, I get 1. And if you square 4, you get 16. And I'll rewrite 1 as 16 over 16. How do I solve? Subtract, and I get cosine squared. It's equal to 15 over 16. Square root. Can I take the square root of 15? No, you can't. So I'll write square root of 15. You can take square root of 16. I get 4. So is it positive or negative? We've already decided it was positive, so I got the root of 15 over 4. Right, so you got to flip it to 4 over the root of 15, and Healy sees a problem here. What's the issue? You can't have the radical in the denominator. You got to rationalize the denominator, so we can multiply top and bottom by the root of 15. And I get 4 roots of 15 over 15. Okay. So how do I figure out tangent then? Yeah, sine divided by cosine. So I have negative 1 over 4 divided by positive root of 15 over 4. How do I divide those? Multiply by the reciprocal. What happens? I end up with negative 1 over the root of 15. And everybody just hold your horses. Because right now you want to rationalize the denominator, right? And you're going to. But before that, I just figured out what tangent was, right? What will I do to figure out cotangent? What will I do with this? So flip it. Now let's rationalize the denominator. See why I flipped it right away? Otherwise, if you would have rationalized the denominator, then you would have gone to flip this, and you would have gotten 15 over the root of 15. And it does simplify just to the root of 15, but the fact is that sometimes people make mistakes when they're doing that. I'm just all about trying to save you time. So I know your time's valuable, right? So again, not an easy assignment, but something that we should know how to do. This is pretty important stuff. I would say we had about 50% competency level on the first test. I'd like to see that move up significantly for this next one. Your assignment, 4 problems on the back. Answer key will be posted.